I'm pretty sick of seeing meta builds. Heyo, I'm X, and if you're like me, you're sick of seeing these meta builds pop up all over the place. Not to say anything bad about them. Well, actually, that's the problem. There is nothing bad about them. It's the most mathematically thought out, perfected build possible for a given weapon. And it's kinda boring. If that's what you want, good for you. But I also feel that just by copying builds one to one, you lose out on one of the things that makes Monster Hunter special: personalization. Monster Hunter is a very personalized experience, with lots of tailoring to fit a hunter's wants and needs. Unfortunately, the most recent games have slightly lost that luster for me, but I'm digressing. How do you, Monster Hunter, create a custom build tailored to you for your hunts? Naturally, you can't build to accommodate your playstyle if you don't even know what your playstyle is. So, to begin, what is your weapon? On their own, weapons attract certain types of playstyles that bring out their own demands and requirements that you need to account for. Broadly speaking, here's my own categorization of weapons that more deliberately break them down into more legible categories. Depending on the player and weapon, a weapon can be a part of multiple playstyles. There are stamina weapons. Most, if not all of the weapon, is based on managing the stamina gauge. Technical weapons, weapons that typically balance an additional resource. And shielded weapons, typically more defensive-leaning weapons. Secondly, how do you like to use said weapon? While a weapon calls towards certain playstyles, it's still up to the player to choose which parts they'd like to emphasize. Two sword and shield players could play completely differently. One player might place emphasis on KO and another on slashing. One charged blade player might focus on super amped element discharge. Another might place more emphasis on Savage X. Point is, when making your own build, you should take into account your weapon and how you like to play with said weapon. If you think about it this way, meta builds are simply for players whose playstyle is just doing as much damage as possible. Every weapon has requirements, and it's important to consider this when creating your own build. Probably the most notable example I am familiar with is Quick Sheath with the longsword. This completely changes the EI sheath from something barely usable to one of the best moves in its kit. More obvious examples would be the entirety of the stamina weapons, all of which greatly benefit from skills like Constitution. The reason why I brought up playstyle in part 1 is because you should only consider aiding or covering your weapon's weaknesses if it actually concerns you. Quick Sheath is really important for EI Sheath, but only if you intentionally use it for EI Spirit Slash's iframes.
Like, he could do this because they found out that he has a government module.
Yeah.
Broken. They actually showed this.
This can also change based on the variant of your weapon too. The Switch X and Charge Blade have file types, Power and Elemental. The former takes longer to charge and is greatly aided by skills like Focus. Once you've decided which parts of your weapon to account for, you can move on to actually building your loadout. In general, most builds can be boiled down into a spectrum of two categories: utility and damage. The logic is fairly obvious when you think about it. Most armor skills offer one or the other. Skills such as Agitator or Resentment would offer increased damage, and skills such as Part Breaker or KO offer utility. TLDR, utility offers everything outside of pure damage increases, of which there are two main/relevant subcategories: combat utility and survival utility, the latter being what most people default to. From my POV, utility is where things get interesting and fun. Builds that seem lackluster can really open up to being special with some clever application. And that doesn't bar the fact that it's just very satisfying to crumple a monster like cardboard. Knocko!
Down! Keep fighting. Nice, there it is.
Nice. With the exception of speedrun and medic builds, most builds will fall somewhere in between these two categories. Now that I've covered the basics, how do you, Monster Hunter, make and curate your very own build? I've been wanting to make an insect glaive build, so we'll work with that. Starting from the top, I like to play insect glaive on the ground, only sparingly using the jump to reposition and dodge, so I'll be building with that in mind. This means I probably won't consider skills like Constitution or Stamina Surge, whereas others might. Because of Monster Hunter Wild's newer weak point features, I wanted to experiment with a bug minimalist plus survival build. In theory, this will allow me to continuously stay in combat without as many breaks. Considering these two things, I think the skill will probably be about a 60 to 40 ratio of damage to utility. A bit of this, and a bit of that, and there. You got yourself a custom-made insect glaive build without much consideration for videos. Hopefully, this gives you a baseline and inspires you to theory craft your own builds. Maybe this is what you need to escape meta hell that plagues your feed. But if it doesn't, that's perfectly fine too. Monster Hunter is a personal experience after all. If you don't enjoy theory crafting, then it is your choice as a hunter to make. The intent of this video is to encourage a viable but unique builds. I suspect that much of the reason behind meta builds is because of this game's weird design choices compared to previous games in the series. Namely, the lock decorations and the endgame bosses having damage checks that seriously discourage uniqueness. And with all that being said, good luck hunters, and happy hunting.